graded 2. Today we are going to be completing the square when a is greater than 1. All right. Again, remember, excuse me. Remember what we mean when we talk about a. We're talking about this number right here, that coefficient that's in front of our x squared term. All right. So it's a lot like the same thing that we've been doing when a is equal to 1, except there's one extra step we got to do at the beginning. Whatever that coefficient is. In our example here, it's a 2. We're going to divide the entire equation by 2, and then we're just going to proceed as we usually would with completing the square. All right, so let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to divide the entire equation on both sides. I'm going to divide it by 2. All right, so that means all of these are getting divided by 2. So 2x squared divided by 2, 1x squared. 12x divided by 2, 6x. Negative 54 divided by 2, negative 27. And 0 divided by 2 is just 0. All right, and then remember our steps for completing the square. So whatever that number is, that c term on the end, we're going to move that to the other side, right? That's our number that does not have any letter attached to it, so our 27. So we're going to add 27 on both sides of the equal sign. We'll get x squared plus 6x equals 27. All right. Remember what we want to do. We want to figure out what is b over 2, what is b over 2 squared, or b over 2 squared. Excuse me. So b, right, that's the number that is in front of just the x, right? Not the x squared, but just the x. So our b is going to be 6. b is going to be 6. So b over 2 is going to be half of that, so half of 6 is 3. And then b over 2 squared, that's going to be this guy squared, right? So 3 squared is going to be 9. 3 squared, which is 9. Okay, and then what we're going to do, remember this is what we've been doing with completing the square. So we're going to add b over 2 squared on both sides. All right, so we're going to add 9 on both sides. So I'm going to add plus 9 here, and I'm going to add plus 9 here. All right, so I can now remember that this is this step right here. After we've added b over 2 squared to both sides, that's when we can simplify it down, right? We want x plus b over 2, and that whole thing squared, right? Well, b over 2 is right there. That's going to be our 3. So that means is that this simplifies to x plus 3 squared equals, and then 27 plus 9 is 36. All right, those are the same steps that we've been doing. We'll get to see some more examples in a minute. Okay, next thing we're going to do, same thing we've been doing, we're going to take the square root on both sides. Remember, when we take the square root on both sides, you're going to split it into 2 equations, one where the right side stays positive, one where the right side is negative. Here's what that's going to look like. So I've got x plus 3 equals, and then the square root of 36. Remember, square root is saying what number times itself gives us 36. So it's going to be 6, right? 6 times 6 is 36. So one where it's positive, and then we're going to have a second equation where it is negative. So it's going to be a negative 6. All right, and with these, when we're completing the square like this, you're going to be looking for 2 answers. All right, and then we are one step away. Subtract 3 on both sides, so we will get x equals 3. And then again, we will subtract 3 on both sides, and we will get x equals negative 9. All right, there we go. There's a first example. We got some more of them. So again, first thing we want to do, let's start up with this one here on the top left, is whatever that a is, that coefficient in front of the x squared, divide that. Divide it all the way through on both sides. So we're going to divide both sides by 7. It's going to give me 1x squared plus 14x divided by 2 is divided by 7 is 2x. Negative 21 divided by 7 is negative 3. 0 divided by 7 is 0. All right, and then that c term, right, that number, we're going to move it to the other side. That's going to be that 3. We're going to add the 3 over to both sides. You're going to x squared plus 2x equals 3. And then we're going to go ahead and find b over 2, and b over 2 squared. All right, b is that number in front of x. That is 2. So b over 2 is half of that, which is 1. And then b over 2 squared is also 1, right? Because 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, and then we add b over 2 squared to both sides, same as we did on the last one. So we're going to add plus 1 on both sides. All right, and this is where we can condense that, right? As soon as you add b over 2 squared, your next step is going to be condensing it to x plus b over 2, and then that whole thing in parentheses, that's going to be squared. All right, well, b over 2 is 1, so x plus b over 2, which is 1, squared, equals, and then we can simplify this side. 3 plus 1 is 4. All right, and then as soon as we do that, we're going to take a square root, and we're going to split it into those two equations. All right, let's take a square root. And that's going to give us x plus 1 equals, the square root of 4 is 2, so we're going to have 1 with the positive, and then we're going to have 1 with the negative. Subtract 1 on both sides, you'll get x equals 1. Subtract 1 on both sides, and you will get x equals negative 3. All right, got a few more examples here. Let's see what we got. Again, first thing you always want to do, divide it through on both sides by whatever that coefficient is of the x squared, right? Divide by a. In this case, we're looking at that 4, right? Because we want to get that into a 1, so we're going to divide everything through by 4. Let's go ahead and do that. Make sure you're doing it on both sides. All right, so I got 4x squared divided by 4 is 1x squared. Negative 16x divided by 4 is negative 4x. And 4 divided by 4 is 1. Equals, and then negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. All right, and then we want all of our numbers to go, move those over onto the right side, right? So we're looking at that plus 1. We're going to move that guy over. So let's subtract 1 on both sides. Gives you x squared plus 4x equals negative 3. All right, notice, yeah, because I had this negative 8 over here, but I'm doing the exact same steps, right? We're still dividing by 4. We're still moving the rest of the numbers over on the right side. Just because it's a negative 8 and not a 0, we're still treating it the same way. We're still doing those same steps. Okay, what else are we going to do? Now, we got to find b over 2, and b over 2 squared, right? So again, b is always going to be that guy in front of x. That's going to be 4. b over 2 is half of that, which is 2. And then b over 2 squared is 2 squared, which takes us right back to 4. All right, we're going to add b over 2 squared on both sides. So that's going to be a 4. Let's add 4 on both sides. Plus 4, plus 4. Okay, and then as soon as we do that, our next step is going to be to condense this right here. So x plus b over 2, right? X plus b over 2, so plus 2 squared equals, and then we can go ahead and condense that. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. All right, and then as soon as we've done that, now our next step is always going to be take that square root on both sides. And we want to split it into two equations. So the square root of 1 is 1. So we're going to have 1 with the positive 1. We're going to have 1 with the negative 1. All right, so we subtract 2 on both sides. You'll get x equals negative 1. Subtract 2 on both sides. X equals negative 3. And there you go. All right. Last two examples are a little bit different just because there's some fractions it looks like that we might get involved. But we're going to go step by step, see what happens. Okay, so again, we're going to divide both sides by 9. All right, first step, we're going to divide by this guy. Divide by 9. Okay, so 9x squared divided by 9 is 1x squared. 18x divided by 9 is 2x. Negative 86 divided by 9 is not a whole number, so I'll just leave it as an improper fraction, and then equals 5 over 9. All right, and then from here, we are going to, let's see what we can do. We're going to add that number to both sides, right? We always want to get our numbers all on the right side. So I'm going to add 86 over 9 to both sides. Well, notice that we do have a common denominator with those fractions, right? I'm talking about 5 over 9 plus 86 over 9, right? It's a common denominator. They're both over 9, so we can add them. So 5 plus 86 is going to be 91. So it's going to be 91 over 9. All right? And then, now, we can look at what is b over 2 squared. Again, don't let the fraction confuse you. We're still worried about that number in front of x. All right, so b is 2, which means that b over 2 is 1. And b over 2 squared is 1 times 1. which is also 1. All right, so that's what we're going to be adding on both sides. We're going to be adding 1 plus 1 plus 1. All right? And then once we've done that, we can go ahead and condense this. All right, remember it is x plus b over 2 squared. So it's going to be x plus b over 2, which is 1 squared, equals. And then let's go ahead and add this, 91 over 9 plus 1. All right, remember we need to get a common denominator to add those fractions. So I have 91 over 9. 91 over 9 plus 1. Remember, we can put that 1 over 1, and we want to get a common denominator. So let's multiply this guy by 9 over 9. So that would be 91 over 9 plus 9 over 9, which is 100 over 9. All right, so now we've added those two fractions together, so we're going to say that this is equal to 100 over 9. Okay, I'm a little bit out of room, so I'm going to come over and I'm going to rewrite what we have right here. Right, this is where we're at. X plus 1 squared equals 100 over 9. All right, let's rewrite this. So we've got x plus 1 squared equals 100 over 9. Right, and remember, once we've condensed it, we've got it in the parentheses and squared, our next step is going to be taking that square root on both sides. All right, let's take our square root. So that's going to give us x plus 1 equals. Now remember, when you're taking the square root of a fraction, you take the square root of the top and then you take the square root of the bottom. All right, so this would be the same thing as saying the square root of 100 over the square root of 9. Right, these two things, those are the same thing right there. Okay, so the square root of 100 is 10, the square root of 9 is going to be 3. All right, so remember we have one of them is positive, so it would be equals 10 over 3. It would be one of our equations, and then as we split it, our other one is it's going to be equal to the negative 10 over 3. All right, so again, we're going to subtract 1 on both sides. Those are going to be our two answers. So x equals 10 over 3 minus 1. And then 1 is equal to 3 over 3, right? So I can say x equals 10 over 3 minus 3 over 3. Right, because I'm saying that 1 is equal to 3 divided by 3, which is true. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And we want it over 3 because we're getting that common denominator there. So that is x equals 10 minus 3 is 7 over 3. And then same thing here. So I'm going to do negative 10 over 3 minus 1. And then negative 10 over 3 minus 3 over 3. And then that is going to be negative 13 over 3. All right, there we go. Let's see what we got. So those are our two answers for that one, and we got one more example. That's another one that we're going to deal with some fractions. But again, it's that same process that we're still going through. All right, so first of all, we see that coefficient. It's not a 1, so we're going to divide by that on both sides. All right, so I've got 8x squared divided by 8 is 1x squared. 16x divided by 8 is 2x. 34 divided by 8, it's just 34 divided by 8. 0 divided by 8 is 0. Okay, 34 divided by 8, we're going to move that over to the other side, right? Whatever that number is, we want to get that to the other side. So let's go ahead and add that to both sides. Plus 34 over 8. Plus 34 over 8. All right, so I'm going to have x squared plus 2x equals 34 over 8. Okay, and if you notice, 34 over 8, actually, it does simplify a little bit, right? Because we can, 2 comes out of both of those, so we can factor out a 2. So 34 over 8 simplifies to 17 over 4. All right, I'm taking a 2 out of the 34, and I'm taking a 2 out of the 8. All right, let's get b, which is 2. And the same as the last problem, so b over 2 is 1. B over 2 squared is also 1. All right, so we're going to add b over 2 squared to both sides, so let's do that. I'm going to add 1. I'm going to add 1 over here. Let's get rid of these arrows. Add 1 over here. All right, we can go ahead and condense that. X plus b over 2. B over 2 is 1, so x plus 1 squared equals 17 over 4 plus 1. Again, 1, right, is the same thing as 4 divided by 4. So I can change the 1 to a 4 over 4. And now I can add these fractions, right? Because now we've got the same denominator. 17 plus 4 is 21 over 4. And then from here, once again, we are going to split those into two separate equations. So we've got x plus 1, or again, we're taking the square root. Forgot to mention that. That's important. All right, so we're taking the square root and we are splitting them into two equations. So it's going to be the square root of 21 over the square root of 4, and x plus 1 equals negative square root of 21 over square root of 4. All right, well, the square root of 4 is just 2, so we can go ahead and change that to a 2 on both of these. So I'm changing my denominators to 2, right, because the square root of 4 is just 2. And then we can subtract the 1 on both sides. So I've got x equals square root of 21 over 2 minus 1. And I've got x equals negative square root of 21 over 2 minus 1. All right. Whoops. And there you go. So those are your two answers. And that is all as far as this is concerned. So let me know if you have any questions. But again, it's going to be the same steps that we've been doing. The main thing is at first, we're just going to divide the entire equation through by whatever that a term is. And then after that, we're going to proceed as normal. All right. Let me know if you have any questions.